The council room was huge and filled with strange creatures. Jake Morrison stood straight, trying not to show how nervous he felt. Next to him were Kate Sullivan and Eric Blake, the other humans chosen for this important meeting. They were the first people from Earth to ever visit this space station that orbited a distant star. A tall, bug-like alien named Zarketh looked at them with many eyes. The creature made clicking sounds that their translation devices turned into words. The alien seemed to find something funny about the humans standing before the council. The council members were talking among themselves, pointing at the humans and making strange sounds. Jake could tell they were not impressed. He had expected this meeting to be difficult, but the level of disrespect was worse than he imagined. Zarketh finally spoke to them directly. The words came through clear in their earpieces. The alien wanted to know if humans really thought they had conquered their planet. The tone made it clear that Zarketh did not believe Earth was anything special. Jake chose his words carefully. He explained that humans did not conquer Earth. Instead, they learned to live with it. They worked together with nature, not against it. He thought this would sound good to the council, but the aliens laughed. It was not friendly laughter. A blob-like creature named Quilox changed colors rapidly. The translation device said this meant the alien was mocking them. Quilox told the humans that the council had studied Earth's animals. According to the scans, Earth's predators were weak and slow. The alien said that the most dangerous hunters on Earth could not even catch a simple creature from the Glorian homeworld. Kate felt her hands form into fists, but she kept them at her sides. Before coming here, they had been warned this might happen. Earth's wildlife did not look impressive when compared to creatures from other planets. The biggest land predator on Earth was a polar bear, weighing maybe 700 kilograms. Other worlds had hunters 10 times that size. A reptile-like alien called Vexthor joined the conversation. This creature had scales that looked like metal and a tongue that split in two. Vexthor explained that on its homeworld, the hunters were massive. They weighed several tons, had blood that could burn through metal and skin that could stop energy weapons. Compared to those monsters, Earth's predators were nothing. Eric decided to speak up. He said they had not come to the council to talk about animals. The humans wanted to discuss trade agreements and forming an alliance. They wanted to work together with other species in the galaxy. Zarketh waved one of its long arms in a dismissive gesture. The alien told them that the galaxy worked on the principle of strength. Species that came from dangerous worlds were respected. Species from safe, comfortable planets were not taken seriously. Earth, according to all their data, was a soft world with gentle creatures. The alien continued talking. Zarketh wanted to know what humans could possibly offer the council. Humanity had only just developed the technology to leave their own solar system. They had no colonies on other planets. They had never conquered another world. They lived on one single planet with animals that posed no real threat. Jake tried again to explain. He told the council that humans could offer new ideas, different ways of thinking, and the ability to adapt to any situation. On Earth, humans had learned to survive in every type of environment. From the frozen Arctic to the burning deserts, from the deepest oceans to the highest mountains, humans had found ways to live and thrive. Quilox made bubbling sounds that translated as more laughter. The blob alien pointed out that humans had not even left their star system until very recently. They had no colonies, no conquered territories, no proof of their ability to survive in space. All they had was one planet with comfortable temperatures and animals that would not scare a child. Kate thought about the great white sharks that hunted in Earth's oceans. She thought about the crocodiles that could crush bones with their jaws. She thought about the polar bears that could smell prey from miles away. She thought about the snakes with venom that could kill in minutes. But she said nothing. The aliens would not understand. The meeting went on for hours. Every time the humans tried to prove their worth, the aliens found ways to dismiss them. The council members made jokes about Earth's small animals and weak predators. They compared humans to children playing at being adults. Finally, the council made their decision. Earth would be allowed to join the Galactic Council, but only as a Tier 4 civilization. This was the lowest rank possible, just barely above species that had not yet discovered space travel. The humans would have limited rights and almost no say in important decisions. As they left the council chamber, Jake, Kate, and Eric walked in silence. The other aliens watched them go, still making their clicking and bubbling sounds of amusement. The humans had been humiliated in front of the entire galactic community. When they reached their ship, Eric finally spoke. He said the aliens had no real understanding of what Earth was like. They looked at data and numbers but did not see the truth. They did not understand what it meant to survive on a planet where danger came in many forms. Kate agreed. She said the Council judged Earth by the size of its predators, not by their effectiveness. They did not understand that the most dangerous predator was not always the biggest or the strongest. Sometimes it was the smartest. Jake looked at his team and made a promise. He said they would prove themselves when it mattered. The galaxy would learn that humans were not weak. They would show everyone that Earth had produced something the aliens had never encountered before, but none of them knew how soon that opportunity would come. None of them realized that in just a few months everything would change. The galaxy was about to learn a hard lesson about Earth and its people. Back on the Council station, the aliens continued their discussions. They talked about the humans and laughed about their small planet with its gentle animals. They felt confident in their assessment. Earth was not a threat. Humanity was not important. Zarketh told the other Council members that humans would probably stay in their corner of the galaxy, trading small goods and learning from more advanced species. The bug alien predicted that Earth would never become a major power. Their world was too soft, their experience too limited. Vexthor agreed completely. The reptile alien said that humanity lacked the warrior spirit that came from surviving on a truly dangerous world. They had never faced real predators, never learned to fight for their lives every day. This made them weak and unsuitable for the harsh realities of galactic politics. Quilok suggested that humans might be useful for simple tasks. Perhaps they could handle trade routes that were too boring for more important species. Maybe they could do research work that did not require real courage or strength. But they would never be warriors or leaders. The Council members all agreed. They filed away their reports on humanity and moved on to more important matters. Earth was classified, categorized, and essentially forgotten. Just another minor species from a safe little world. They had made a mistake. A big mistake. They had judged humans by their animals and their planet. They had not looked deeper. They had not asked the right questions. They had not wondered why a species from such a supposedly gentle world had developed such advanced technology, such complex societies, and such a strong drive to explore. Soon, the entire galaxy would understand. Earth was not a gentle world. Its predators were not weak, and humanity was about to show everyone what it truly meant to be an apex predator. 3 months had passed since the embarrassing meeting with the Galactic Council. Captain Lisa Grant was on the bridge of her ship, the Endeavor, when the emergency signal came through. The message was from a mining colony on a planet called Kepler 442b. The colony belonged to the Glorians, the same species that had laughed at Earth during the Council meeting. The colony was under attack. The enemy was called the Vraken Swarm, and they were one of the most feared species in the galaxy. The Vraken were giant insects that worked together like a single mind. They had destroyed many colonies in the past year. Even the strong military forces of the Galactic Council could barely slow them down. Lisa studied the information on her screen. Each Vraken warrior stood almost 3 meters tall. They had sharp claws that could cut through steel. Their bodies were covered in armor-like shells that were hard to damage. Worst of all, they could communicate instantly with each other, coordinating their attacks with perfect timing. The nearest Council fleet was 2 weeks away from the colony. According to the reports, the colonists had maybe 3 or 4 days before the Vraken would break through their defenses. 5,000 people were about to die, and nobody could reach them in time. Nobody except the Endeavor. The human ship was only 2 days away. Jake Morrison stood next to Lisa on the bridge. He had been reassigned to her ship after the Council meeting. Now he watched as she made calculations and checked distances. He knew what she was thinking because he was thinking the same thing. Lieutenant Sam Wheeler spoke from the communication station. He said that the Council was sending them a direct order. They were told to hold their position and not approach the colony. The Council said that humans were not equipped to fight the Vraken. Any attempt to help would only result in more deaths. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. He said they had 300 trained Marines on the ship. They had weapons, armor, and tactical equipment. They had more than enough to at least try to help those people. Lisa understood the political problem. If they disobeyed the Council's orders, Earth could face serious consequences. Their membership in the galactic community could be revoked. There could be sanctions or restrictions. But if they followed orders, 5,000 innocent people would die. She asked how many colonists there were. Sam told her 5,000, mostly civilians, scientists, engineers, workers, and their families, children. Lisa made her decision in less than a second. She ordered the crew to set a course for Kepler 442b at maximum speed. She told the Marines to prepare for combat deployment. They were going to save those people no matter what the Council said. Commander Daniel Ross, her second-in-command, tried to warn her. He reminded her that the Council had given them explicit orders not to engage. There would be consequences for this decision. Lisa said she understood. She told him to log her decision in the ship's records. She would accept whatever punishment came later. Right now, people were dying, and she had the power to help them. That was all that mattered. The Endeavor's engines powered up to full thrust. The ship turned toward the distant colony and began accelerating. Down in the deployment bay, the Marines received their orders and started getting ready for battle. Eric Blake gathered his company of Marines. These were not ceremonial soldiers who looked pretty in parades. These were combat veterans, men and women who had trained for every possible type of fight. They knew how to work together, how to adapt to changing situations, and how to win against impossible odds. Eric showed them pictures and videos of the Vraken. He wanted his troops to understand what they would be facing. The creatures were big, fast, and deadly. Their armor could stop most weapons. Their claws could tear through metal, and they never fought alone. He explained that Council forces had been losing battles against the Vraken because they tried to fight them directly. They tried to match strength with strength, speed with speed. It did not work, but humans did not need to fight that way. Eric reminded his troops of Earth's history. He talked about how human ancestors had hunted animals much larger and stronger than themselves. They did not win through strength. They won through intelligence, planning, and teamwork. Private Amy Chen spoke up. She said the Vraken reminded her of something from Earth's past. Pack hunters that worked together perfectly, predators that seemed unstoppable. Eric agreed and asked what humans had done to those predators. Corporal Ben Martinez answered with a smile. Humans had hunted them until they were no longer a threat. In some cases, humans had driven them completely extinct, not because humans were stronger, but because humans were smarter. Eric told his troops something important. The Council thought humans were weak because Earth did not have impressive animals. The aliens did not understand that Earth was actually a very dangerous place. It had taught humans to survive by being clever, not just strong. He asked them a question. What was the most dangerous predator on Earth? The Marines answered together. Humans. They were the apex predators, the ones at the top of the food chain. Not because they were the biggest or the strongest, but because they could think, plan, and adapt better than anything else. Eric said the Vraken thought they were the hunters. But they were about to learn what it felt like to be hunted by something even more dangerous. They were about to face humanity. The ship arrived at the edge of the Kepler 442b system. The sensors immediately showed them what was happening. The colony's defenses were failing. Thousands of Vraken were swarming across the settlement, breaking down walls and attacking the survivors. Sam opened a communication channel with the colony. A Glorian administrator appeared on the screen. Its blob-like body was pulsing with colors that showed fear and panic. It told the humans to run away. The Vraken could not be stopped. The humans should save themselves while they still could. Lisa looked at the terrified alien with determination. She said they had not come all this way to run. She told the Glorian to hold on. Help had arrived. Jake reported that the dropships were ready. 300 Marines were armed and waiting for the order to deploy. They had studied the colony layout and identified the best landing zones. They had a plan. Lisa took a deep breath. This was it. This was the moment when humanity would show the galaxy what they were really made of. She gave the order to launch all dropships. The Marines would go down to the surface and do what humans did best. They would fight, adapt, and win. The dropships detached from the Endeavor and began their descent toward the planet. Inside each ship, Marines checked their weapons one last time. They knew the odds were against them. 17 Vraken warriors for every human soldier, but they also knew something the aliens did not. Humans had survived worse, much worse. Their ancestors had faced ice ages, plagues, and predators that hunted them in the darkness. And not only had they survived, they had thrived. They had become the dominant species on a planet that tried to kill them in 1,000 different ways. The Fraken were dangerous, but so were humans. And the aliens were about to learn that the most dangerous predator was not always the one with the biggest claws or the thickest armor. Sometimes it was the one that refused to give up no matter what. The dropships fell through the atmosphere like burning stars. Inside one of them, Eric Blake held tight to his rifle and watched through the window as the ground got closer. The colony spread out below them, surrounded by smoke and fire, and everywhere he looked there were Vraken. Amy Chen stared at the scene below and whispered in shock. There were so many of them, thousands of giant insect creatures moving together like a single organism. The tactical computer counted them and calculated the odds. 5,300 Vraken against 300 humans, 17-1. Ben Martinez tried to lighten the mood with a joke. He said he had faced worse odds when shopping on Black Friday. A few Marines laughed, but most stayed quiet. They were professional soldiers, but they were also human. Fear was natural. The trick was not letting it control you. Eric studied the tactical display carefully. The Vraken had surrounded the main colony building where the civilians were hiding. It was standard swarm behavior. Overwhelming force, perfect coordination, no mercy. The Council forces had tried to fight them head-on and failed every time. But Eric had a different plan. Humans did not fight fair. They fought smart. He explained the strategy to his troops. First platoon would land at the western side of the colony. They would make noise, fire weapons, and draw attention. Their job was to act as bait. The Vraken would see them as an easy target and send warriors to attack them. Meanwhile, second and third platoons would land to the north and south. They would stay hidden and wait. When the Vraken swarmed toward first platoon, the other two groups would attack from the sides. The aliens would be caught in a trap. Kate Sullivan asked about fourth platoon. She had insisted on joining the ground mission even though she was an officer. Eric told her that she would be with him. They had a special mission. Somewhere on the planet there was a queen controlling all the Vraken warriors. If they could find her and eliminate her, the hive mind would collapse. The dropship split apart, each heading to its assigned landing zone. Eric's ship touched down 2 kilometers from the colony in a rocky area that provided good cover. The moment the door opened, the Marines moved out with practiced efficiency. No shouting, no confusion. Just smooth teamwork born from countless hours of training. They spread out in a standard search pattern, weapons ready, eyes scanning for threats. The landscape was alien but not too different from places on Earth. Rocky terrain with scattered vegetation, good places to hide and set up ambushes. Private Greg Foster whispered over the radio. He had spotted 3 Vraken moving toward first platoon's position. They were 200 meters away, clearly looking for targets to attack. Eric raised his scope and studied the creatures. They were as impressive as the reports had said. 3 meters of armored insect moving with deadly grace. Their claws looked like they could tear through anything. They made clicking sounds to communicate with each other, their heads turning as they searched for enemies. But the Vraken were focused on the sounds from first platoon. They were listening to the gunfire and explosions in the distance. They did not see the humans hiding in the rocks less than 50 meters away. They did not know that they were being hunted. Eric told his team to hold steady and wait for his signal. The Vraken came closer, 40 meters, 30 meters, 20 meters. Still focused on the battle sounds ahead of them, still completely unaware of the danger, Eric gave the order. 3 shots rang out at exactly the same moment. All 3 Vraken dropped dead before they could react. The human bullets were designed specifically to pierce their armor. Explosive tips that detonated after penetration. Clean, efficient kills. Kate checked the bodies. She confirmed that all 3 were dead. The Vraken had not even known the humans were there. They never had a chance to fight back or warn the others. Eric explained why this worked so well. The Vraken were used to fighting other hive minds and pack hunters, creatures that attacked with overwhelming force or animal instincts. They had never encountered a species that used long-range weapons, careful planning, and tactical thinking. The aliens did not know how to fight an enemy they could not see. Over the next hour, the pattern kept repeating. First platoon made lots of noise and fired weapons to attract attention. The Vraken, thinking they had found easy prey, sent warriors to attack. Then second and third platoons opened fire from hidden positions, catching the aliens in deadly crossfire. The Vraken tried to adapt. They split their forces to deal with threats from multiple directions. But this was when the humans showed their real advantage. The Marines could think for themselves. Each squad leader could make independent decisions based on what they saw. They could change tactics instantly, exploit weaknesses, and coordinate without needing a central mind to tell them what to do. Amy watched a group of Vraken retreat from a failed attack. She thought they were running away, but Kate corrected her. The aliens were not retreating. They were regrouping. The hive mind was learning. It now understood that it was facing something different, something dangerous. Eric knew they were running out of time. The Queen would realize the threat and strengthen her defenses. They needed to move quickly. Their tracking equipment had found the source of the coordination signals. There was a cave system 3 kilometers to the east. That was where the Queen was hiding. 4th Platoon moved across the alien landscape like ghosts. They stayed low, used every bit of cover, and moved when the wind would carry their scent away from the enemy. These were skills humans had learned over thousands of years of hunting. Skills that no amount of hive-mind coordination could match. As they got closer to the caves, Greg started talking quietly. He said his great-grandfather used to hunt dangerous animals in Africa. The old man had always said the most important thing was to respect your prey. To understand them and their capabilities, Eric agreed. The Vraken were dangerous and formidable opponents. In a fair fight, they would probably win. But humans were not interested in fighting fair. Humans were interested in winning. The cave entrance came into view. Dozens of Vraken warriors guarded it, standing in perfect formation. Behind them, deeper in the darkness, something much larger moved. The sensors confirmed it was the Queen. She was massive, maybe 4 meters tall and twice as heavy as the warriors. Kate studied the layout and shook her head. A direct attack would be suicide. Even with their superior weapons and tactics, the sheer number of defenders would overwhelm them. They needed a different approach. Eric smiled and asked if anyone remembered what ancient humans did to cave bears. Kate understood immediately and her eyes went wide. She asked if he was serious about using that method. Eric explained his plan. When human ancestors could not fight something directly, they used the environment as a weapon. Fire, smoke, and patience. They would seal the main entrance with explosives, then pump smoke into the secondary ventilation shafts. The Vraken would have to come out or suffocate. And when they came out, the humans would be waiting. It was a plan based on 10,000 years of human hunting experience. A plan that combined ancient wisdom with modern technology. A plan that no hive mind would ever think of because hive minds did not think creatively. They followed patterns and instincts. The Marines set up their positions carefully. They placed the smoke bombs at the ventilation shafts. They set explosives at the main entrance. They created overlapping fields of fire at every exit the Vraken might use. Then they waited. When everything was ready, Eric gave the signal. The smoke bombs activated with quiet pops. Within seconds, thick clouds of choking smoke began filling the cave system. The trap was set. Now they would see if the apex predators of Earth could defeat the apex predators of the Vraken homeworld. The answer came quickly. Vraken warriors began pouring out of the secondary exits, desperate to escape the smoke. They ran right into the human firing positions. The battle for the Queen's life had begun. The smoke bombs released thick clouds of gas into the cave system. Within minutes, Vraken warriors started streaming out of the emergency exits, coughing and confused. They ran directly into the prepared human positions. The first wave died before they understood what was happening. The second wave tried to charge the Marine positions but was cut down by concentrated gunfire. The third wave showed the hive mind learning. The Vraken attempted to flank the humans coming from different directions at once, but the Marines had planned for this. Their positions overlapped, covering each other from every angle. Kate watched the tactical display as the Vraken kept trying new approaches. She commented that they were adapting, trying to figure out how to fight back. But Eric pointed out that adaptation took time. By the time the hive mind understood one tactic, the humans had already changed to something new. This was evolution in action. The Vraken learned through their hive mind, but it was a slow process. They needed time to process information, recognize patterns, and implement new strategies. Humans could change tactics in seconds. Each Marine could think independently, see what was working, and adjust immediately. The humans kept switching between different approaches. They would use suppressing fire to pin the Vraken down, then launch close assaults. They would pretend to retreat, then ambush the pursuers. They would split into small teams, forcing the hive mind to track multiple independent threats at once. Every time the Vraken adapted to one strategy, the Marines changed to another. It was a masterclass in adaptive warfare. This was the advantage humanity had over almost every other species in the galaxy. They could think as individuals while working as a team. They could learn and evolve in real time, not over generations. After nearly an hour of fighting, the warrior drones were reduced to scattered groups. The cave entrances were littered with their bodies. The Marines had taken only minor casualties. Then everything changed. The Queen emerged from the smoke. She was enormous, 4 meters tall and 3 meters wide, her shell scarred from countless battles. Her mandibles clicked rapidly as she communicated commands to her remaining forces. But there was something else visible in her compound eyes, something the humans recognized immediately. It was fear. For the first time in her long life, the Vraken Queen understood what it felt like to be prey. She had always been the hunter, the controller, the dominant force. Now she faced something that hunted her with cold intelligence and deadly efficiency. The Queen charged forward with surprising speed for something so large. Her massive claws raked the air where Amy Chen had been standing just moments before. The Marines scattered in a coordinated dispersal pattern. Each team moved to a pre-planned position, spreading out to create multiple firing angles. The Queen went after the nearest group of Marines, but they were already moving. She was fast, but they were faster because they had planned for this. Then the crossfire began. From 3 different directions, concentrated fire poured into the Queen. Most bullets bounced off her heavy armor, but the humans had studied their enemy. They targeted the joints, the weak points between armored plates, the softer tissue underneath. The Queen thrashed and roared, trying desperately to reach her attackers. But the humans stayed just out of range. This was a tactic that humanity had perfected over thousands of years. Their ancestors had brought down woolly mammoths and giant bears using nothing but stone-tipped spears and teamwork. They would surround large prey, keep their distance, and slowly wear it down with repeated attacks. Now they had modern weapons, advanced armor, and perfect communication. The principle was the same, but the execution was far more deadly. The Queen swung her massive claws, but the Marines moved with practiced efficiency. They attacked from blind spots, retreated when she turned toward them, and maintained constant pressure. Blood began to seep from between the Queen's armored plates. Her movements became slower, more desperate. She tried to retreat back into the cave, but Eric had anticipated this. More Marines blocked that path, forcing her to stay in the open where she was vulnerable. The end came suddenly. The Queen's legs buckled as multiple shots found critical points in her nervous system. She crashed to the ground with an impact that shook the earth. Her mandibles clicked weakly a few times, then stopped. The coordination signals that had controlled thousands of warriors went silent. Eric ordered his troops to cease fire. Around the battlefield, the remaining Vraken warriors stopped moving in unison. Without the Queen's guidance, they scattered in confusion. Some ran. Some just stood still, unsure what to do. The hive mind had been destroyed. Eric told his Marines to let the survivors go. The Vraken were no longer a coordinated threat. They were just confused creatures trying to survive. The battle was over. Silence fell across the battlefield except for the distant crackle of fires and the quiet hum of cooling weapons. 300 human Marines had faced 5,000 Vraken warriors and won, not through superior numbers or better technology, but through superior tactics, adaptability, and the accumulated hunting knowledge of humanity's entire evolutionary history. Back at the colony, the Glorian administrator slowly emerged from the central building. Its blob-like form pulsed with colors that the translation devices showed as shock and disbelief. It could not believe what it was seeing. The Vraken had destroyed dozens of colonies. Entire military fleets had failed to stop them. How had these humans won? Captain Lisa Grant appeared as a hologram, having coordinated the entire operation from the Endeavour in orbit. She explained that humans came from Earth, a world that might seem gentle to others but was actually quite dangerous. It was a place where survival meant constant adaptation, where the greatest predator was not the strongest or the fastest, but the one that could think, plan, and work together. The Glorian administrator tried to understand. It had seen the scans of Earth. The planet had small predators, comfortable temperatures, and abundant resources. How could such a place produce warriors like this? Lisa explained that the Glorian was looking at Earth the wrong way. Yes, the individual predators were small compared to creatures from other worlds, but Earth had hundreds of different predators, each dangerous in its own way. It had sharks in the oceans, big cats on the land, venomous snakes and spiders, disease-carrying insects, and countless other threats. Humans had survived by learning to outsmart all of them. They developed tools to hunt prey larger than themselves. They created medicine to fight diseases. They built shelters to survive extreme weather. They formed complex social groups that could work together to overcome any challenge. Eric stood among his tired but victorious Marines. Amy approached him, exhaustion clear on her face but pride shining in her eyes. She said the council was going to be shocked when they heard about this victory. Eric nodded in agreement. He said the council would finally understand that Earth had not produced the biggest predators in the galaxy. It had produced something far more dangerous. It had produced the smartest, most adaptable, and most relentless survivors the universe had ever seen. It had produced humans. Ben walked over and added his thoughts. He said the aliens had made a fundamental mistake. They had judged humanity by physical strength and the size of their predators. They did not understand that the deadliest hunter was not the one with the biggest teeth or the sharpest claws. It was the one that never gave up, that adapted to every situation, that turned every disadvantage into an advantage. News of the victory spread through the Galactic Council like wildfire. The impossible had happened. A species they had dismissed as weak, from a planet they had mocked as gentle, had defeated the Fracken swarm with minimal losses. The battle reports were analyzed over and over, but the conclusion was always the same. The humans had won through superior strategy and adaptability. The implications were enormous. Every species in the Council had to reconsider their assessment of humanity. Earth was not a soft world. Its people were not weak. And underestimating them had been a terrible mistake. The galaxy was about to learn a hard lesson. The most dangerous predator was not always the most obvious one. Sometimes it was the quiet species from the small blue planet, the species that had learned to survive by being smarter than everything else, the species called human. The Galactic Council chamber was completely full. Every seat was taken, every species represented. The large holographic displays showed footage from Kepler 442b. The videos had been captured by the colony's security systems and the human Marines' combat recorders. Every council member watched in stunned silence. They saw the coordinated tactics, the clever strategies, and the way 300 humans had outmaneuvered 5,000 Fracken through superior planning. They watched as the Marines used the environment as a weapon, turning the Queen's own cave into a trap. They saw the final battle where the massive Queen fell to creatures a fraction of her size. When the footage ended, nobody spoke. The chamber remained completely quiet for what felt like a very long time. The council members were processing what they had seen. Their entire understanding of humanity had just been proven wrong. Finally, Zarketh spoke. The insectoid who had so thoroughly mocked Earth during their first meeting now admitted that the council had been wrong. The bug alien's voice carried shame and respect in equal measure. Captain Lisa Grant stood before the council with Jake Morrison and Kate Sullivan beside her. They had been summoned to explain their actions. There had been serious talk of sanctions for violating the direct order to stay away from Kepler 442b. Some council members had wanted to punish Earth for disobedience, but all that talk had disappeared the moment the battle footage was shown. Now the aliens looked at the three humans with new eyes. These were not weak creatures from a gentle world. These were dangerous, capable warriors from a planet that bred survivors. Quilox, the blob-like delegate, changed colors in a way that meant embarrassment. It admitted that the council had judged Earth by the wrong criteria. They had looked at the size of the predators and assumed that determined strength. They had failed to understand what true apex predation really meant. Vexthor, the reptilian delegate, added more. The alien explained that the council's mistake was fundamental. They had assumed that physical power was most important. Strength, armor, and weapons. They never considered that the deadliest predator might be the one that did not need to be the biggest or the strongest. Lisa kept her face neutral, but inside she felt satisfied. This was the recognition that humanity deserved, not given through threats or aggression, but earned through demonstration. They had shown the galaxy what humans could do when pushed. Jake asked permission to speak. Zarketh gestured for him to continue. Jake began by acknowledging that Earth's apex predators were not impressive by galactic standards. The polar bear, their largest land predator, weighed maybe 700 kilograms. The great white shark, their most feared ocean hunter, was only 6 meters long. Compared to creatures from other worlds, they seemed weak. He paused to let that information sink in. The council members nodded, thinking they understood. Then Jake continued with the truth that changed everything. Those predators were not the apex of Earth's food chain. Humans were. Humans were not the biggest, the strongest, or the fastest, but they were the smartest. They were the most adaptable. They were the ones who learned to hunt in packs with complex coordination. They were the ones who developed tools, tactics, and strategies that let them defeat any threat. Kate stepped forward to add more context. She explained that Earth was a world where survival required constant adaptation. The climate changed dramatically between seasons and locations. The predators were diverse and dangerous in different ways. The challenges were endless. Every human alive was descended from ancestors who survived ice ages, plagues, droughts, floods, and predators that hunted them in the darkness. Lisa continued the explanation. Humans learned to fear the dark because that was when predators hunted, so they mastered fire to push back the darkness. They learned to fear the cold, so they created clothing and shelter. They learned to fear starvation, so they developed agriculture and ways to store food. Every fear became a challenge to overcome. Jake took over again. Every predator became a target to outsmart. Every environmental challenge became an opportunity to innovate. Earth did not produce the deadliest individual creatures in the galaxy. It produced something far more dangerous. It produced a species that could think, adapt, coordinate, and persist in the face of any threat. The council chamber remained silent as the delegates absorbed this information. They were beginning to understand how badly they had misjudged humanity. The error was not small. It was fundamental and potentially dangerous. Zarketh acknowledged that the Vraken were formidable warriors. They had destroyed colonies protected by species with far more impressive physical capabilities than humans. The Vraken were stronger, faster, and more durable. The alien wanted to understand how humans had defeated them. Lisa explained the strategy simply. The humans did not try to match the Vraken's strengths. Instead, they exploited weaknesses. The hive mind was efficient but predictable. Humans used tactics the aliens had never encountered. They adapted faster than the Vraken could respond. They thought like the apex predators they truly were. A new voice spoke from the back of the chamber. An elderly delegate of a species humanity had not met before stepped forward. Her form was humanoid but made of crystal that refracted light into rainbow patterns. She pointed out something important that the others had missed. The humans had not just shown their ability to fight. They had also demonstrated compassion. They had defied orders to save people who were not their own species. They had risked their lives for complete strangers. This was not the behavior of pure predators. This was something more complex. Lisa nodded and agreed. Humans were indeed complex. They were capable of great violence when necessary, but also capable of great compassion. They protected the weak and helped those in need. They formed bonds across species. Earth had taught them to be fierce, but it also taught them to be social, to work together and to care for each other. Quilox changed colors again, this time showing respect. The blob alien pointed out that humans could have let the Glorian colony fall. It would have been politically safer. But they chose to act anyway, knowing there would be consequences, Kate replied simply. Of course they acted. That was what apex predators did. They protected their territory and those within it. And as far as humans were concerned, any place where innocent beings needed protection became their territory. Zarketh rose to full height and made a formal announcement. The Galactic Council was requesting that humanity accept reclassification from Tier 4 to Tier 2 civilization status. This was an enormous jump, skipping an entire tier. Furthermore, the Council requested that Earth provide military advisors to help train their defense forces in human tactical methods. The entire chamber erupted in sounds and gestures of approval from every species present. This was unprecedented. A species that had been dismissed as weak just months ago was now being asked to train the galaxy's defenders. Lisa looked at Jake and Kate before responding. This was a monumental shift in humanity's position in the galaxy. In one battle, they had gone from dismissed newcomers to valued and respected members of the galactic community. But such power came with responsibility. Lisa formally accepted on one condition. The human methods and training would be used only for defense and protection, never for conquest or oppression. Earth would not help anyone become an aggressor. Zarkith agreed immediately and spoke for the entire council. The aliens said they were grateful that Earth's apex predators were allies rather than enemies. The implications of that statement hung in the air. Everyone understood now. Humanity was dangerous, very dangerous, and the galaxy was lucky they were friendly. As the three humans left the chamber, they found Eric Blake waiting in the corridor. He had been watching the proceedings through a live video feed. His Marines had changed everything with their victory. Lisa told him that he and his Marines had just rewritten humanity's place in the galaxy. They had proven beyond any doubt that humans belonged among the stars. Eric shrugged modestly.
He said they had just done what humans always did.
They adapted, they overcame, and they survived. The galaxy would learn that Earth might not have the biggest predators, but it had produced the smartest, most relentless, and most dangerous apex predators the universe had ever seen. The four of them walked together through the station, heading back to their ship. Around them, other aliens watched with new respect and perhaps a little fear. The small creatures from the blue planet had proven themselves. They were warriors, strategists, and survivors. They were humanity. In the weeks and months that followed the battle at Kepler 442b, the story of humanity's victory spread throughout the entire galaxy. It traveled from system to system, passed between species, and became the subject of countless discussions. The impossible had happened, and everyone wanted to understand how. Other species began to study Earth with new interest and respect. They sent research teams to analyze human history, biology, and psychology. What they discovered shocked them. Earth was not the gentle paradise they had imagined. It was actually one of the most challenging inhabited worlds in the known galaxy. The researchers learned about persistence hunting, where humans would chase prey for days until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. No other species had this ability. Most predators relied on short bursts of speed, but humans could just keep going, hour after hour, never giving up. They learned about the fishing techniques that required patience and intelligence, about the trap building that used the environment as a weapon, about the social structures that allowed humans to coordinate in groups ranging from small families to massive civilizations of millions. They learned that Earth's predators were diverse not because the planet was safe, but because it was challenging enough to support multiple evolutionary strategies. And sitting at the top of that complex ecosystem was humanity, the ultimate generalist predator. Humans could survive in frozen Arctic wastelands and burning deserts. They could live in dense jungles and open grasslands. They could adapt to any environment. The Glorian colony on Kepler 442b erected a monument to honor the human Marines who had saved them. It was a simple stone pillar, but the message carved into it was powerful. 300 names were listed, one for each Marine who had fought. Below the names was an inscription in both Glorian and English. The inscription said that the monument stood as proof of Earth's children. They came when others would not. They fought when others could not. They won when others thought it impossible. They were humanity, the true apex predators of the galaxy. Jake Morrison returned to Earth for a brief visit before his next assignment. He stood in front of a group of young cadets at the military academy, sharing the story of Kepler 442b. The cadets listened with wide eyes as he described the battle. One cadet raised her hand and asked why the aliens had been so surprised by human tactics. Jake smiled and explained that most species evolved on worlds where the threats were obvious. Giant predators, extreme weather, or hostile environments. They learned to fight with strength or endure with toughness. Earth was different. The threats came in many forms. Tiny mosquitoes that carried deadly diseases, snakes with venom that could kill in minutes, bacteria and viruses invisible to the eye, large predators that hunted in the darkness, weather that could change from pleasant to deadly in hours. Humans had to develop intelligence and adaptability just to survive childhood. Kate Sullivan was assigned to the Galactic Council headquarters as a military advisor. She spent her days teaching alien officers about human tactical thinking. At first, many of them struggled with the concepts. They were used to straightforward strategies based on overwhelming force or superior technology. Kate taught them about misdirection, ambush tactics, and psychological warfare. She explained how to use terrain as an ally and how to turn enemy strengths into weaknesses. Most importantly, she taught them that the key to winning was not having the biggest army or the strongest weapons. It was understanding your enemy better than they understood themselves. Eric Blake remained with his Marine company, but now they had a different role. They became the training unit for all new human military recruits heading into space. Eric made sure every soldier understood what it meant to represent humanity among the stars. He told them that they were not just soldiers. They were ambassadors. Every action they took would reflect on all of humanity. The galaxy now knew that humans were dangerous, but they also needed to know that humans were honorable, compassionate, and fair. Lisa Grant was promoted to admiral and given command of Earth's growing space fleet. More ships were being built as humanity expanded its presence in the galaxy. Other species wanted to trade with Earth, form alliances, and learn from human expertise. In her office, Lisa kept a small piece of rock from Kepler 442b. It reminded her of the day everything changed, the day humanity proved itself to the galaxy. But it also reminded her of the responsibility that came with that recognition. The Vraken, after their defeat, were studied extensively. Scientists wanted to understand why they had failed so completely against the humans. The answer was both simple and complex. The Vraken hive mind was optimized for fighting other hive minds or simple pack hunters. It had never encountered a species that combined individual creativity with group coordination. Humans were unique in the galaxy. They had the benefits of both systems. Each individual could think creatively and adapt to new situations, but they could also work together in perfect harmony when needed. This combination made them incredibly difficult to fight. As humanity established more colonies and expanded through space, they brought their values with them. They protected smaller species from aggression. They shared their knowledge freely. They formed genuine friendships with aliens who had once mocked them. The galaxy was learning that humans were not just dangerous warriors. They were also loyal allies and valuable friends. Zarketh, the council member who had first dismissed humanity, became one of Earth's strongest advocates. The insectoid alien admitted publicly that judging humans by their wildlife had been the greatest mistake of its long career. Now Zarketh worked to ensure that no other species made the same error. Quilox, the blob-like Glorian, established a cultural exchange program between the Glorian homeworld and Earth. The alien wanted its people to understand humanity properly, not through data and statistics, but through personal relationships and shared experiences. Throughout the galaxy, whenever someone spoke of dangerous worlds or deadly predators, Earth was now mentioned first. Not because of its wildlife, but because of its people. The small blue planet had produced something unprecedented. A species that combined intelligence, adaptability, compassion, and determination in equal measure. Young aliens studying military tactics learned about the Battle of Kepler 442b. It became a standard case study in adaptive warfare. Students analyzed every decision the human Marines made, trying to understand the thinking behind each move. But some things could not be taught from textbooks. The human way of thinking, the refusal to accept defeat, the ability to find solutions where none seemed to exist. These traits came from 10,000 generations of surviving on a world that constantly challenged them. Back on Earth, people went about their daily lives mostly unaware of how famous they had become. They worked, loved, raised families, and pursued their dreams. But now when they looked up at the night sky, they knew that humanity had a place among those distant stars. They had earned respect through courage and skill. The story of Kepler 442b was taught in schools. Children learned about the 300 Marines who faced impossible odds and won. But the real lesson was deeper. It was about never judging others by appearance, about understanding that strength came in many forms, about the importance of intelligence, adaptability, and never giving up. Years passed and humanity continued to grow in influence and respect. They never forgot where they came from or the lessons Earth had taught them. They remained apex predators, but they used that nature to protect rather than to conquer, to defend the weak rather than to prey on them. The galaxy learned that the most dangerous predator was not the biggest or the strongest. It was the one that could think, the one that could adapt, the one that never gave up, the one that looked at impossible situations and found ways to win anyway, the one that was human. And among all the species in the vast galaxy, from the smallest to the largest, from the gentlest to the most warlike, one truth became universally accepted. When you needed someone to stand against impossible odds, when you needed warriors who would never quit, when you needed the very best that evolution could produce, you called the humans from Earth, because they were the apex predators, not of Earth alone but of the entire galaxy. And they had earned that title not through size or strength, but through intelligence, determination, and the unbreakable human spirit that had been forged over millions of years on a beautiful, dangerous, challenging blue world called home.